Google and Apple are two of the biggest companies in the world. Over the years, they've garnered millions of users. But with that level of success comes a lot of controversies too. Day in and day out, both companies keep landing into trouble. And well, they're at it again. And this time, the UK CMA is after them. In this video, we're going to be uncovering everything you need to know about what's going on with Google and Apple right now, and whether there's more to it than meets the eye. So let's jump right in. First up, Google and Apple hold all the cards. The United Kingdom's Competitive and Markets Authority, or CMA, has just recently announced that they will be planning an investigation into Google and Apple over the dominance they have over the smartphone industry. According to a year-long report, both Google and Apple have a duopoly over the mobile ecosystem. It's so strong that they've managed to shut out all of their competitors too. Without intervening, both of these companies will probably maintain or could even strengthen their grips over more sectors. This way, other UK businesses don't even stand a chance of getting into the mobile market anytime soon. That's why the UK CMA decided to step in, so that these businesses could also have their fair shot. The report went into depth about all sorts of potential interventions across the ecosystems, but the CMA has decided to look where they can immediately take action with their current power. Because of this, the CMA is now investigating Google and Apple into how they restrict mobile browsers and cloud gaming, and Apple restrictions on other browsers going overboard. Browsers are probably the most important part of our phones. We rely on them for just about anything. However, 97% of all mobile users in the UK only use either browsers powered by Apple or Google. This is because of all the restrictions Apple has imposed to make sure people can only use their browser and not anyone else's. The CMA is worried about how this limits potential rival browsers, since people can't get their browsers on an Apple device unless it's powered by Apple's engine. And there's a very small chance these businesses will be able to do that. This restriction can also limit the potential of web apps that work on a browser instead of needing to download through the App or Play Store. This not only prevents businesses from advancing further, but also prevents customers from the benefits they can get from those web apps. Almost all mobile devices also come with either Google's Chrome or Apple's Safari pre-installed, which automatically gives them a significant advantage over any other alternative browser. Now, Apple trying to monopolize cloud gaming services. Engines aren't the only thing that Apple has banned. They've also blocked all cloud gaming services on their App Store. Just like web apps, cloud gaming is also a way of giving customers access to games that can be streamed instead of downloaded. Apple relies heavily on gaming applications for profit, and cloud gaming could be a pretty serious challenge to Apple's dominant position in app distribution. During CMA's market investigation, a lot of UK companies and startups stated that they were finding it difficult to compete in the market because of all the limitations Apple has imposed. After their investigation, if CMA thinks it's necessary, then they could issue legally binding orders for Apple and Google to change their practices. Up next, Google getting deep into payments. For Google, the CMA is also launching an investigation on the Play Store payment practices and how they let their customers make the payments. This CMA will look at Google's policies controlling app access to listing on its Play Store, including the restrictions it establishes for how users could make in-app payments for certain digital items. The CMA has actually already had an open investigation into Apple's App Store in March of last year for the same reasons. So this is basically the same thing all over again, but for Google instead. Apple and Google's response to the controversy. Both Apple and Google have talked about the investigations CMA will be taking, and they seem to disagree with their points. Apple said in their statement that they believe in thriving as well as competitive markets, and that they don't mean to restrict anyone. They said they'd continue to talk with CMA and explain to them how their approach actually promotes competition and choice rather than the other way around. Google stated that phones powered by their Android operating system and Google App Store provided users with all the options they would ever need and supported developers in launching international companies. They also added that Android phones offer companies and the average person more choice than any other mobile platform can. Google said it would review the report sent by CMA and continue to engage with them privately. Up next, Apple Pay getting into shady business. Just like Google's payment situation, the EU also thinks Apple might be using anti-competitive practices. The European Commission is looking into Apple Pay, mainly how they control the access to hardware and software needed to allow near-field communication, or NFC technology, which is key to Apple Pay as well as third-party alternatives. According to the Commission, Apple Pay is the only iOS mobile payment system that can use NFC input, and Apple does not make it available to other parties. This is actually the fourth anti-competition action the EU has taken against Apple in just the last year and a half. They've also opened investigations on their use of in-app purchases for the music and the fact that you need to use Apple's IAP system for apps. Now, in other related news, Italy's watchdog warns against Google's analytics. The Italian Data Protection Authority has determined that the local web publisher's use of Google Analytics tool has actually violated the EU's data protection rules and regulations because the user data that was supposed to go to the US was also going to another country, which could mean no one really knows who has access to millions of people's private data, which could put the entire nation at risk. The publisher's use of Google Analytics has resulted in users' IP addresses, screen resolution, language settings, browser information, and even date and time being collected far beyond the limits they're legally allowed to. The security implemented by Google wasn't enough to tackle the danger, leading EU DPAs to believe that using Google Analytics violates the bloc's data protection standards on the subject of data export. The publisher has 90 days to fix the compliance issue, according to Italy's DPA. However, the decision can have a big impact because they have also advised other local websites that use Google Analytics to take note and evaluate their own compliance, according to a press release. Up next, Apple might lose $1 billion over allegations. Recently, a legal claim against Apple has come out for deliberately throttling the performance of their phone in order to save more battery power. Justin Gutman filed the newest lawsuit asking the UK's Competition Appeal Tribunal, or CAT, to permit a collective action that might allow up to 25 million British citizens to get compensation from Apple. He alleges that the company secretly lowered the performance of their smartphones in order to extend their battery life. Gutman's attorneys calculated that Apple might have to pay a whopping £768 million, which is around $927 million. Gutman is upset that Apple released an iOS upgrade that will slow software performances on the iPhone. According to Apple, around the time the Batterygate scandal broke in 2017, the throttling was implemented to guarantee that batteries, especially worn-out ones with lesser capacity, were not being depleted at the rate that caused the devices to suddenly shut down. If the CAT does approve of Gutman's case, Apple will be subjected to another lawsuit relating to the battery issue. The company has previously been sued by individuals as well as attorneys from various states in America, as well as an Italian consumer rights organization. Apple actually ended up paying $113 million and more than $310 million to get rid of all the allegations against them. iPhones now have a report in the settings menu under Battery Health that shows whether or not the throttling is active. Apple has also provided new batteries for certain earlier iPhones. Lastly, Lightning ports are about to be a thing of the past. One of the biggest complaints about Apple's iPhones is the fact that they still use a Lightning port for most of their devices, but most people just adjust to it because it doesn't really seem like Apple will be changing it anytime soon. However, they might just be forced to change it. USB-C charging will be mandatory for phones as well as other handhelds sold in the EU by 2024. Considering the sheer amount of people using iPhones in the EU, there's no way Apple would just stop selling their products there. Some reports actually indicate that Apple might already be working on converting their products to USB-C. According to the European Parliament, European consumers have been frustrated with the multiple charging chargers piling up and creating a mess, especially since Apple uses different chargers for almost all their products. That's why they reached a decision to only allow USB-C for all handhelds, so customers only have to use one charger to use with all their devices. That's a wrap for today's video. What do you think will happen as a result of this investigation of Apple and Google? Make sure to let us know in the comments down below. And as always, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and click the subscribe button for more videos like this one. We'll see you next time.